Stick around for Fascism 101.
Before I got banned from TikTok the first time for standing up for trans rights, I was trying to expose voter suppression in Texas. Turns out, I don't even think my vote in Texas was counted. But after I got banned, I still went in front of my county commissioner's court to discuss the threat of Project 2025, Seven Mountain Mandate, Alliance Defending Freedom, Heritage Foundation, Moms for Liberty, America First PAC, and Putin's disinformation campaigns via the troll industrial complex. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but basically this is just a recap on fascism for all the tech bros that may have missed it. Fascism is a far-right political ideology characterized by authoritarianism, ultranationalism, and militarism. It typically involves a strong centralized state, suppression of opposition, and subordination of individual interests to the perceived good of the nation. Key tenets of fascism include a cult of personality around a strong leader, a perception of a national decline or crisis, and an emphasis on violence and discipline. Personally, I don't even think these MAGAs know the definition of nationalism, which you have to know the definition of nationalism to understand the 14 tenets of fascism, as I like to call it. So let me tell you how these self-proclaimed patriotic MAGA are just really bootlickers. They don't understand the difference between nationalism and patriotism. So I know this is rudimentary and basic for many, but please like and share and stick around so the tech bros can see this, maybe possibly for the first time. I'm not talking down to those who didn't have the opportunity to go to college, as I have friends with degrees that seemingly don't understand or know these basic principles. It's something you can learn outside of school and university just by reading books. Keep in mind, I have a friend who has a double major from the same school I went to, who even used to cover rage songs in a college band, who doesn't understand these basic tenets. Or maybe they just refuse to acknowledge it because they have too many things going on in their lives. But a lot of my friends from college are educated, but they didn't take political science or sociology courses. Their focus was on business, and it shows. Then there's a whole group that think nationalism and Christian nationalism are good things. First of all, none of fascism is original. For instance, MAGA ripped off their slogan from an old Italian fascist slogan, "Make Italy Great Again." But make no mistake, Trump is a populist and a fascist. He's also a Nepo baby that's uneducated and hasn't had to work for anything in his life. So I'm making this elementary post, not for those with graduate degrees, but for those with college educations and below who may not be familiar with these definitions. I don't think we should bicker about the nuances because we don't have that luxury anymore. We just need to know the basic principles, and we need to realize that it's fascism versus anti-fascism. Tenet of fascism number 1, powerful and continuing nationalism. Fascist regimes tend to make constant use of patriotic mottos, slogans, symbols, songs, and other paraphernalia. Flags are seen everywhere, as are flag symbols on clothing and in public displays. Tenet number 2, disdain for recognition of human rights. Because of fear of enemies and the need for security, the people in fascist regimes are persuaded that human rights can be ignored in certain cases because of need. The people tend to look the other way or even approve of torture, summary executions, assassinations, long incarcerations of prisoners, etc. Number 3, identification of enemies, scapegoats as a unifying cause. The people are rallied into a unifying patriotic frenzy over the need to eliminate a perceived common threat or foe. Racial, ethnic, or religious minorities, liberals, communists, socialists, terrorists, etc. Number 4, supremacy of the military. Even when there are widespread domestic problems, the military is given a disproportionate amount of government funding and the domestic agenda is neglected. Soldiers and military service are glamorized. Number 5, rampant sexism. The governments of fascist nations tend to be almost exclusively male-dominated. Under fascist regimes, traditional gender roles are made more rigid. Opposition to abortion is high, as is homophobia and anti-gay legislation and national policy. Number 6, controlled mass media. Sometimes the media is directly controlled by the government, but in other cases, the media is indirectly controlled by government regulation or sympathetic media spokespeople and executives. Censorship, especially in wartime, is very common. Number 7, obsession with national security. Fear is used as a motivational tool by the government over the masses. Number 8, religion and government are intertwined. Governments in fascist nations tend to use the most common religion in the nation as a tool to manipulate public opinion. Religious rhetoric and terminology is common from government leaders, even when the major tenets of the religion are diametrically opposed to the government's policies or actions. Number 9, corporate power is protected. The industrial and business aristocracy of a fascist nation often are the ones who put the government leaders into power, creating a mutually beneficial business-government relationship and power elite. Tenet number 10, labor power is suppressed. Because the organizing power of labor is the only real threat to a fascist government, labor unions are either eliminated entirely or are severely suppressed. Number 11, disdain for intellectuals and the arts. Fascist nations tend to promote and tolerate open hostility to higher education and academia. It is not uncommon for professors and other academics to be censored or even arrested. Free expression in the arts is openly attacked, and governments often refuse to fund the arts. Tenet number 12, obsession with crime and punishment. Under fascist regimes, the police are given almost limitless power to enforce laws. The people are often willing to overlook police abuses and even forego civil liberties in the name of patriotism. There is often a national police force with virtually unlimited power in fascist nations. Tenet number 13, rampant cronyism and corruption. Fascist regimes almost always are governed by groups of friends and associates who appoint each other to government positions and use governmental power and authority to protect their friends from accountability. It is not uncommon in fascist regimes for national resources and even treasures to be appropriated or even outright stolen by government leaders. Tenet number 14, fraudulent elections. Sometimes elections in fascist nations are a complete sham. Other times elections are manipulated by smear campaigns against or even assassination of opposition candidates, use of legislation to control voting numbers or political district boundaries, and manipulation of the media. Fascist nations also typically use their judiciaries to manipulate or control elections. At this point, we all know that MAGA is fascist, but to all those that don't, doesn't this sound familiar? Not only does this message go out to all the tech bros that missed this in college, but it goes out to all the Christophers and Ryans and Richards in my life who seem incapable of processing what's going on right now. Like, does this make sense to you now? Or did it make sense to you before, but you're actually just a terrible person and you tricked me? You'll be able to do the same things you do now under a president like Kamala, just without so much pain and suffering of those different from you. Why is this so difficult for you to comprehend? Get out of the cult now. Your membership is incredibly damaging to so many, it's incalculable at this point. Authoritarianism and centralized power. Fascism rejects democracy and pluralism, preferring a single-party state with a dictatorial leader at its head. This leader is often portrayed as infallible and embodies the national will. Ultranationalism. Fascism elevates the nation above all else, emphasizing its greatness, uniqueness, and destiny. This often leads to a racial or ethnic nationalism with a focus on a pure national identity. Suppression of dissent. Fascism actively suppresses any opposition, including political parties, free press, and independent organizations. Intellectual dissent is discouraged, and conformity to the state ideology is enforced. Cult of personality. A strong, charismatic leader is often central to the fascist movement, with the cult of personality built around their image and power. This leader is presented as the embodiment of the nation's will. Militarism and violence, both domestically and internationally. Perception of decadence and decline. Anxiety about economic hardship or perceived threats to national identity. Anti-egalitarianism and hierarchy. Fascism rejects egalitarianism and emphasizes social hierarchy with the state and the leader at the top. This often leads to a focus on racial or ethnic purity and the suppression of marginalized groups. Rejection of modernity. Fascism often rejects modernism and its values, viewing it as a source of decline and decadence. This can involve a romanticized view of the past or focus on traditional values. Wake up, MAGA. Are you in there?